Shifting focus, Volodymyr Zelensky pleading for money to stop Putin as Russia strikes 100 targets in Ukraine. On Thursday, Russia said its armed forces had struck over 100 targets in Ukraine, while Ukraine reported on the same day that it had repelled offensives from Russia. Let's just break this down. A lot happening on the battlefield. In fact, the Russian Ministry of Defense has said in its latest report that over the past 24 hours, its forces had conducted strikes on 149 areas, including energy infrastructure serving the Ukrainian forces, assembly workshops, storage points for long-range attack drones, and temporary deployment sites of Ukraine's armed forces and foreign mercenaries. And they also destroyed Ukrainian armored vehicles, they said, field artillery, ammunition depots, according to them. The Russian air defense system saying that they shot down 216 fixed-wing drones belonging to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian army reporting that its troops engaged in 134 combat clashes with Russian forces in just the past 24 hours. They repelled dozens of Russian attacks, they say, in areas like Pokrovsk. Their air missile artillery units struck one Russian air warehouse, one control point, two major targets, shot down 330 Russian tactical drones. In another development, meanwhile, the Ukrainian president has said on Thursday that a Ukrainian delegation is on its way to the United States to continue the peace negotiations. The talks with America negotiating team, remember, set to take place, in fact, with European representatives also expected to participate. Zelensky told the Interfax Ukraine news agency, and he highlighted that the key points of contentions between Ukraine and the United States include territorial issues and the use of frozen Russian assets. Zelensky has said that should a peace agreement be reached in the Russia-Ukraine war, Ukraine plans to use the frozen assets for reconstruction efforts. However, if the hostilities persist, the funds may be directed towards supporting the Ukrainian military, also bolstering the defense production and purchasing US-made air defense missiles. Zelensky has urged the EU leaders to approve a loan to keep Ukraine afloat in the new year. At a high-stakes EU summit in Brussels, leaders deciding whether to actually use the frozen Russian assets to underwrite a loan for Ukraine's needs over the next 2 years. Belgium, fearing a Russian backlash and preferring to borrow from international markets, and insisted on Thursday that its European Union partners must provide ironclad guarantees that it will be protected from Russian retaliation. And speaking at a press conference in Brussels, Zelensky said that if Ukraine does not get this batch, the drone production will be decreased several-fold. The bulk of the assets, some 193 billion euros, that's $227 billion, as of the month of September, are held in the Brussels-based financial clearing house Euroclear. Russia's central bank sued Euroclear last week. And Zelensky is hoping that the United States would exert more pressure on Vladimir Putin. He said, and I'm quoting now from his statement, "I think that Putin does not want to stop this war, but he can if the United States will pressure more. And President Trump, he can," quote unquote. Meanwhile, European Union leaders have agreed on a major financial move to keep Ukraine afloat in that war against Russia. After intense negotiations, the EU decided to borrow 90 billion euros and loan it to Ukraine over the next 2 years, rather than directly using frozen Russian state assets. Listen to this.
In October, we decided that the European Union would cover Ukraine's pressing financial needs for 2026 and 2027. Last week, we decided that Russia would not get its assets back until Moscow ends its aggression. Today, we approved a decision to provide 90 billion euros to Ukraine for the next 2 years.
Basically, the plan marks a political compromise. While the EU has more than 210 billion euros in Russian assets frozen inside the bloc, using that money directly will be politically and legally risky for Brussels. In Belgium, where most of those assets are held, voiced strong concerns about potential retaliation and lawsuits. Despite the earlier opposition from Hungary's Prime Minister, EU leaders found a way for the plan to move forward, with Hungary, Slovakia and the Czech Republic agreeing as long as the loan does not affect their national budgets. Moscow has responded sharply. Meanwhile, the Russian president has warned of severe consequences if Russian assets are ever handed over to Ukraine, calling such a move theft and a dangerous precedent. Meanwhile, in Britain, a separate but related battle over frozen Russian money is unfolding. The UK government has given the Russian oligarch a final deadline to release $3.4 billion from the sale of Chelsea Football Club to support Ukraine.
I can announce that we're issuing a licence to transfer £2.5 billion from the sale of Chelsea Football Club. That's been frozen, those funds, since 2022. My message to Abramovich is this: the clock is ticking. Honour the commitment that you made and pay up now. And if you don't, we're prepared to go to court so every penny reaches those whose lives have been torn apart by Putin's illegal war.
The funds have been frozen since 2022, with London insisting that they should go to humanitarian aid inside Ukraine, while Abramovich argues that they should help all victims of the war, including in Russia. And these developments underscoring the same message. Europe is committing billions to support Ukraine, but for now, Russian assets remain frozen, locked in legal and political limbo as the war drags on. To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.